Cox can go to hell.
Oh, sad.
They're the COVID-19 of internet service providers.
Wow. All right, we're putting that in the podcast. Put that right at the beginning. We'll never be sponsored by them ever.
No, I'm okay with that. Hope you are.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody, to Not the Worst Podcast, episode 35. I am JD. That guy over there is Anthony. Say hi, Anthony.
Hi, Anthony.
Okay. And we're going to be talking about some gaming news and some not so gaming news today. But first, let's get to our little intros. The only thing I wanted to say is that if you are a fan or if you've ever been curious about Red Dead Online, which is the multiplayer component of Red Dead Redemption 2, then you should know that they are breaking it out as its own standalone game. So you used to have to buy Red Dead Redemption 2 to play Red Dead Online, but now you'll only have to get Red Dead Online. And when it launches on December 1st, from December 1st until February, it's only going to be $5. So compared to paying $60 for the full game, or sometimes it goes on sale for like $40, you only have to pay $5 and you'll get full access to the online component of Red Dead, which is interesting.
I will probably grab that then. Yeah.
Yeah. It's cheap enough to make it worth checking out.
And I can see shenanigans ensuing because we decided to take on the Wild Wild West together.
Yeah, why not? That'd be fun.
During the women's suffrage movement.
I don't know what that means.
You know exactly. How do you not?
Are we gonna run around the Wild West like beating up women so that they can't vote? Is that what your plan is?
You say that, but there was a guy that got in trouble for feeding one to an alligator in the game. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't.
Anyway.
Interesting. Okay. All right. All of Anthony's sexism aside, do you have anything for the intro?
Oh, yeah, because that was my sexism. I was the one that fed him to the alligator.
And sure.
You're the one that just recommend beating up women in the Wild Wild West.
I remember it.
The only thing I got from the intro is, first off, I'm going to go ahead and preemptively apologize. If you see us drop, disappear, or struggle with either the stream or the recording, it's because my internet sucks so bad, and I hate it. I've been going robotic ever since JD and I started talking on Discord, so I apologize to anybody listening to this podcast.
My internet's pretty great. You can just watch my stream because I won't go anywhere.
This even
solid over here.
I'm also apologizing to the recording, actually, because JD tends to edit these down. So if there's a lot of jump cuts, it's because it's probably a time I broke down in my audio and struggled.
Indeed.
The only other, I had something else I was going to talk about. Whatever, let's get on.
I won't break down because my internet's really good.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Just wanted to just supporting you here, buddy. I'm here for you.
I appreciate it.
With my excellent internet. I'm going to hold us both up. Okay.
You lift me up.
Wow. All right.
Okay.
First story we're going to talk about is Phil Spencer from Xbox. He did an interview with The Verge, actually, for their podcast, which, we're obviously competing with. It's a very competitive environment, these gaming podcasts.
There it is.
But he did a very extensive interview with The Verge about the new Xbox, the Xbox Series X, and about the gaming industry in general. And there were a lot of important and interesting tidbits of information in there. So we wanted to talk about that for a little bit. For example, one of the things that's been going around the gaming Twitterverse, really, just water cooler stuff, is a lot of people talking about how Xbox bought Bethesda and what that's going to mean for future Bethesda games. And it's brought up a lot of what Phil Spencer calls console tribalism, right? Like, people think that Bethesda games should only be on Xbox now because Xbox owns it, and that makes the PS5 inferior automatically because it doesn't have Bethesda games like The Elder Scrolls or Starfield and things like that. And basically, in this interview with The Verge, Phil Spencer comes out and says that he thinks that kind of tribalism, Xbox versus PlayStation or whatever, is one of the worst things in gaming. And I definitely agree with him. I think it's really stupid to compare the specs of the Xbox and the PlayStation uh, especially since they're so similar. Really, you don't even know, there aren't any real differences, and even if there were, you're not really going to notice them. And even if, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. So it's always been weird to me to see people go, "Oh, I'm never going to get a PlayStation because I have an Xbox." I used to love having multiple systems, you know. I would have an Xbox and a PlayStation 2. I got a PlayStation 3. I didn't get the PlayStation 4. But I generally consider myself an Xbox fanboy over PlayStation, but I've definitely had the systems in the past. So yeah, I agree with Phil that that's a stupid thing.
Honestly, this day and age, tribalism in almost anything is stupid. That's just my personal
Yeah.
opinion. It's destructive and
Yeah.
counterproductive. It's one thing if it's like a sports franchise, you got your team rivals. That's a little different. You have
Right.
fun with that. But actual tribalism is getting ridiculous in our
Yeah.
current culture. So,
And it doesn't really make a lot of sense from the gaming perspective, because the more open your game is, the more available it is to people, the more money you're going to make. So it doesn't make any sense to be constantly exclusive, right? And I think this is part of, you can see Phil Spencer's philosophy in what Xbox is doing, and that they don't really have any exclusives. If you can get it on Xbox, you can get it on PC. And if you have Game Pass, you can play it on your Android phone. Like, they're not restrictive in that way, unlike, some Sony games and stuff like that, which is
mhm.
unfortunate. Um, but even Sony's leaning away from that, because even some of Sony's best exclusives, like Death Stranding or Horizon Zero Dawn, have come to the PC. Uh, so there's definitely, I think part of the reason of thinking that tribalism is bad from the perspective of Microsoft is that they're moving away from that. They're not going to be that way anymore. Um, so it's interesting. Some of the other things he talked about. He also talked about, what was the thing I mentioned before? Oh yeah, he talked about how they want to make an Xbox app that you can get on your smart TV, and what this will do
Before you get
is
into that real quick,
basically,
I just
okay,
want to touch on the tribalism a little bit more.
fine, fine, I'll stop.
Fine.
I'm just gonna stop talking. I'm not gonna keep going.
Sounds like your voice needs it. You're starting to.
I know. What is the deal? It's like I'm a
um,
smoker all of a sudden. I don't know what's going on. Clear my throat.
the only thing I was going to mention real quick about the tribalism, and like JD said, and Phil Spencer mentioned, that this tribalism kind of hurts the gaming community. I mean, you got to think, how long does it take Sony to be willing to do cross-platform with multi-release titles like Fortnite and stuff, and it just causes issues amongst the gamers. I mean, I get it. Sony wants to hang on, make its money, rake it over Xbox and stuff, but it's getting to the point where cross-platform is it's like mainstream for games now. So why tribalism almost becomes non-existent at this point? I mean, aside from PC would always be better, but that's all I'm gonna say with that. But and like
Wow.
JD said,
Wow. way to disown tribalism and embrace it at the same time.
at the same time, that's what we call hypocrisy.
Hooray.
And like JD said, I've been an Xbox fanboy for a while. I mean, my first, aside from the Intellivision and the Genesis, the first modern console was a PlayStation from my brother and I. But he went more of the Sony route. I went more of the Xbox route. And if I buy another console, it's probably gonna be It's gonna be the Xbox Series X. But if Xbox dies off and goes the way of the dodo, I think I'm gonna survive. I'm not that diehard fan of Xbox. I think I'll make it through my life just fine. So tribalism is kind of getting pathetic at this point. But that's all I was gonna say. JD, go ahead and talk about the TV Smart app.
Yeah, he talks about a lot of other stuff, so we'll get into some of this stuff. So the idea of the Xbox app for your smart TV, if you have a TV with a smart platform, you know how it works. You load up your smart platform, and you've got the list of your apps that you can order however you want, and you can access things like Netflix and Hulu and YouTube all in one place. And he wants to add an Xbox to that list. And what this will do is, when you load it up, it will give you access to all of your Game Pass cloud-based gaming. So you'll actually be able to access your Game Pass and play those games on your TV without a hardware attached. You don't need an Xbox when that app comes out.
No.
You just have to subscribe to Game Pass, and then you can play through the cloud the games that you have, which is kind of nuts. Uh, I can imagine future generations of Xbox being almost completely app based, especially if they perfect the cloud gaming thing.
I mean, you got to think about it.
Obviously, oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, somebody may be thinking, well, you can kind of do that on your smartphone, tablet, or PC right now, but that still requires you to buy something that not everybody goes like. Not everybody has a gaming rig for a PC, and the people with tablets and smartphones. I know people that still have iPhone 7s, and I still know people that have old tablets for Apple. So, but a TV, everybody has, almost everybody, well, I won't say almost everybody, more and more people have smart TVs now, especially with them becoming so cheap. Like I talked the other day with JD, a Samsung 65 or 70-inch 4K TV was going for $800. For a TV that size, that's not bad. And it's going to be a smart TV, so you're not buying a bunch of peripherals just to play a game now. You just get your TV and go. Oh.
Yeah, and I think part of the idea behind this is, you know, you want to play an Xbox game on a TV, right? Because you kind of expect that when, even if you don't have a console, you kind of want to play an Xbox game on a big 4K screen. So if you're not buying the console, but you are buying Game Pass, you don't really have a way to play it on a TV. Like you could load it up on your phone and then like connect,
To a
through a cable
TV.
or something,
Yeah.
but that's not going to be as good.
No.
So it's definitely interesting way to go.
Well,
He said
even
that that's like a year away or something. So it's like they're still working on it, but it's interesting.
even connecting your phone to your TV, there's gonna be some like visual lag because you're already streaming it, and then you're gonna stream it from your phone and then hook it up to your TV, and
Right.
like it or not, there's always a slight delay when you hook up one device to another device to just put on its display. And they've gotten better with that
And
in
that's
general.
part of the problem is that
Hmm.
cloud gaming in general, it has a delay, right? There's
Hmm.
always a little bit of a delay with cloud gaming. They haven't really perfected it yet. But
Hmm.
if it gets better and smoother, I think that'll be really neat. Uh, One of the other things Phil Spencer talked about is the pre-order issues. He actually mentioned the head of Sony when he was talking about this, because both sides have had this problem since announcing the PlayStation and the Xbox. They haven't been able to meet the demand with their supply. And a lot of times what's happened is scalpers and bots and
Hmm.
programs have been set up to just buy these things as they come in online, and then people are turning around and selling them at higher prices on eBay and stuff like that. Um, and so he talked about how they need a solution for that, which, first of all, I would call him out on that, because this isn't the first time that this has been a problem. This isn't
Hmm.
like brand new information. They should have known that this stuff was going to happen and had something set up for it already. But he did talk about in his interview that the pre-order way of doing things is just outdated and needs a change. So
Yeah,
they're considering different systems in the future for dealing with that.
it's
But
not even just an
I
issue with.
think. Go ahead.
I was to say it's not even just an issue with pre-orders, for crying out loud. The console came out 2-3 weeks ago now, and
Right.
a
Yeah,
store
they're still
hasn't had
struggling.
him. Yeah, the store hasn't had them in stock yet.
Yeah.
I actually just saw a
I mean, I
video.
think part of the supply problem is the pandemic stuff has made it
Yeah,
pretty hard.
people are locked at home more, and they're trying to keep themselves sane while locked at their house. So,
Yeah.
um,
So
it's gonna be a constant issue. We criticize, like with Call of Duty, we always criticize when a new Call of Duty comes out. They talk about server crashes when the game comes out, and you're like, you already know this is what every year the next Call of Duty tends to be the biggest Call of Duty ever. How are they not preparing for the server? Well, there's things like when it comes to like these consoles being sold, they can't always take into consideration how big is. I mean, for all they know, they figure that with the pandemic and a lot of people not able to work and maybe have to be a little tight on funds, a lot of people may not have been, as many people as they normally would expect to buy a console probably wouldn't be doing that this time around because they don't have the money to do it because a lot of people are out of work. But at the same time, they also had the new payment plan where you're paying, was it $35 a month for the X and then $25 a month for the S, I think.
yeah.
And that maybe they didn't realize people, well, like, okay, I can't pay outright for the console, but that's actually a pretty good deal for me. I could pay that monthly and I can afford that. That's fine. And they also probably underestimated people's wanting to not be bored at home and trying to keep their sanity. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they're underestimating people or if they're just, I don't know. It's weird. Like, I don't know what all the issues are that are making this so difficult for them, but there's definitely a lot of different things. I think it's partly like being able to build the stuff and ship it. Partly, like you said, underestimating the demand
hmm.
for these kind of things. Um, and then there's like they don't want to overdo it now and then oversaturate the market either, right? So they have to find a
Hmm.
balance to that as well. Um, but I don't know. It's definitely a problem. It's a problem and it needs a solution. And hopefully, in the future there will be a solution, but there isn't one right now. So tough luck, I guess. Screw
I
you,
mean,
people.
the Xbox app on a smart TV is kind of a solution to that. It may reduce the
Yeah,
amount of people that would want a physical console. You can
yeah,
play all the games you want and not have to worry about software or hardware upgrades constantly happening. All you have to do is make sure you got a good internet connection. And when companies like Starlink making that easier around the world, getting 100 plus megabytes per second in areas that saw what in that Q&A we saw 3 megabytes per second in some areas was what they normally saw, and now they're seeing 100 plus megabytes per second. So that's going to make it easier for people to do things
bits,
like that now.
bits.
Bits, sorry, megabits. My head hurts again, as always.
Yeah. So, we'll definitely have the link to that interview because he talks about a lot of stuff. It's a pretty extensive interview, and obviously some of this stuff's really interesting to talk about. Um, a lot of it's for the future. It's planning ahead. It's trying to fix problems that they're identifying now and finding a solution later. And we'll have to see if they stick to that.
They seem to be more
So
proactive about this console release than they have in the past, which is interesting.
yeah, yeah,
But like you said when we talked about this a while ago on one of the episodes, Microsoft seems to be less relying on the Xbox itself, but more their software and their programs. So that maybe made it easier for them. And in this interview, you said it says he feels this is the greatest he's ever felt about a roadmap for a way ahead for a console. So who
that's
knows? Who
great.
knows what's to come?
Yeah, it's definitely good. It's good that they're excited about it and that they're going to keep pushing things out. Just hope people who can get their hands on one can get their hands on one.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's move on. Um, Next topic is Spider-Man Miles Morales. This is just an interesting article that I read earlier today, um, and it's about the Chrysler Building. So,
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man Miles Morales, if you don't know, Spider-Man lives in New York City and flies around New York City on his webs, and it's kind of you know it's almost like it's its own character in the game, the city. Uh, and definitely even going back to like the PlayStation 2 or 3 versions of Spider-Man, being able to fly around New York City was just an iconic feeling. Be able to climb those
Mm-hmm.
buildings that from pictures and stuff like that. Even if you've never been to New York, the Statue of Liberty, the Empire State Building and things like that.
Mm.
So it's important to have those buildings in the game. Uh, but for Spider-Man Miles Morales, they were not able to get the Chrysler Building, which is one of the more iconic buildings in the New York City skyline. And I just thought this was interesting because I never really thought about uh, an architectural design from a copyright perspective. Uh, but this article points out some interesting things. So basically, they couldn't get the Chrysler Building in there because they couldn't get a copyright to use the image of the Chrysler Building. And the reason for that is because the Chrysler Building was sold in 2019 to new owners, and they couldn't come to an agreement before the game came out to get the Chrysler Building in there, which is interesting because obviously with New York, you do want to go to those famous buildings and you want to be able to climb around them. Uh, and that's the key there is that you can show like the Chrysler Building is not a private thing. It's a
Mm-mm.
giant building in a skyline. if you have any movie or TV show in New York, you're probably going to see the Chrysler Building at some point. It's a very hard to miss thing. So you don't have to get a copyright license every single time it just happens to show up in a shot when you're filming a movie or whatever. But specifically for Spider-Man, because the idea is you can basically climb it and look at every detail of it and go around it and look at it close up, that becomes, because it's so unique and because you're so interactive with it in the game, that becomes a copyright issue, which I think is really interesting.
Kind of stupid.
I guess it's
too,
kind of
but-
dry. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely stupid in that it's,
I mean, I get
you
it.
can go look at the Chrysler Building right now, and
nobody's gonna charge you for it.
Right, like a cop comes up and says, "Hey, do you have a copyright to look at that building?" Like, nobody's gonna do that.
They're gonna find the mayor of New York City for putting the Chrysler Building on display because he doesn't own the copyright license to have it as a tourist attraction to bring money into the city.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, you have to like renew that license just to keep the building there. What are they gonna fly it away in a giant helicopter? They're just gonna pick it up and be like, "No more Chrysler Building for you."
It's
like,
I get why our. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, but it's what makes video games unique is having to have that kind of license, right? And I've never really thought about that before. And I wonder how many of those famous buildings they got copyrights for, like the Empire State Building or the World Trade Center Freedom Building
Tower.
I mean, whatever it's called, I don't know.
Freedom Tower.
The Statue of Liberty. Do they have?
Didn't you live in New York for a while?
Yeah, I did. Shut up. I don't remember these buildings' names, but I'm just saying, like, how many of those do they actually have to get a license to use? Is interesting to me, and how far down does that go? Because I can understand the Chrysler Building because it's an iconic building. It's been around for 100 years. It's very well known, but there are other pretty well known parts of New York. Like, do you have to get a license for Central Park? Or
does that go to the city?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what all you have to get something for. The AMC Theater on Union Square. Do you got to get a license for that? Like,
or I mean, for crying out loud, if we look at typical copyright licenses on things like with music or movies, you have to deal with royalties. Does that mean the construction company or what's left of the construction company that built the Chrysler Building or the architect that designed it, are they getting royalties for these licenses? I'm sure we're going probably way too deep in this than it really is.
Yeah,
it's probably just the
thinking it a little bit.
But
it's probably
that's
just ownership.
Yeah, whoever currently owns the building, because I guess a company from Abu Dhabi owned it 90% of it in 2008, and then some Tishman Spire Properties owned 10%, but now it's an Australian company, Signa Group, a New York real estate development company.
Not Australian.
I like Australians better.
Wow.
I've heard it both ways.
I've heard it both ways. Put another shrimp on the barbie, mate. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. Yeah, and it's weird to think about buildings like that. I never really thought about the Chrysler Building as being owned by something from Abu Dhabi, which
that caught me off guard too, because like I saw that, I was like, wait, what? Why? I mean, I guess if they got business in New York, I mean, New York has a huge international.
Right. Exactly, and that's probably what it is. Is they have a company that took up residence in there, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But so they actually talked to a lawyer about this as well, and he talked about this concept of the building things, and he says you can't protect the functionality of something.
Yeah.
Like you can't copyright a building being a building, right? So you can't just have like a generic building that sort of kind of looks like the Chrysler Building and say, hey, that's violating my copyright. But when you mimic the unique architectural style of the building and you make it in a way that it's super interactive, like it would be in Spider-Man, that's what's copyrightable. So
it's not like you get to destroy it or anything.
Right. But I mean, you can, like, the first Spider-Man that Miles Morales came from had a photo mode where you could take close-up photos and stuff. So you could,
that's probably, maybe that's what it, yeah.
So
I think there is
part of it.
I think they got a image contest going on for your best photos from Miles
Yeah.
Morales.
See?
So
Yeah. So that kind of thing probably plays a role in it as well. So I don't know. It's just an interesting concept. I've never really thought of buildings as copyrightable. Um,
no, it's. I guess you can copyright anything. I mean, Disney tried to copyright. I'm not even gonna attempt to say it because I butcher even English, so I'm not gonna even try to say Spanish. But the Day of the Dead, when Coco came out, they tried to copyright that. That the Mexican holiday. I'm not even gonna try. I'm gonna butcher it. I can't speak English, so who think?
Wonderful. You've done a great job.
But the point is, like, this day and age, we can apparently copyright everything. So I mean, obviously
Yeah.
Disney lost because the cultural pushback on that. Because how can you like copyright another
Right.
country's holiday? But
Yeah. So all right. Just an interesting thing to think about.
mhm.
And we'll have that article for you as well. Next topic, we're going to talk about Dave Chappelle
And this
of the
is weird.
Chappelle Show.
I had no
This is a
idea
weird
that.
one.
Mhm.
So
Actually, the last
recently,
one.
go ahead.
I was just saying the last one was weird. So I guess we had two weird stories for today, and they're both kind of copyright related. I mean, contract copyright related.
That's true. They are actually both kind of contract copyright related. I didn't even think about that, but yeah.
Mm.
And yeah, these are some weird topics. So this one is a little weird. Uh so anyway, the news is that prior to like November 1st, Netflix announced that they are going to start streaming Chappelle Show,
Mhm.
which was a very famous show and lots of people liked it, so people were literally looking forward to it. Then Dave Chappelle put out on his Instagram, "Don't watch that show." And in fact, he said, I'm going to read the Instagram post. I should have scrolled to it.
This is, by the
So
way,
basically, damn it,
I was
Andy.
just I was gonna say this is the first time I've seen an artist slash actor try to cancel slash boycott their own work. So this is interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's fascinating. So basically, he said when he left the show, he never got paid. If you don't remember, and I'm sure everybody knows this already, but Dave Chappelle famously left the Chappelle show before it was over from burnout. He ended up going to Africa and like rediscovering himself, and he spent years away from comedy, despite the
Hmm.
fact that he had a hit show and he was number one and he was getting paid millions and stuff like that. It was a very big deal at the time. So when he said he left the show, he never got paid. They didn't have to pay him because of the contract that he signed and the way that he left the show. And so he basically came out and said, "Sure, that's true. I signed a contract. I didn't get paid, but is that the right thing to do? Is it right for them to put the show out and stream it and not pay him, even though it uses his name and stars him and his ideas?"
Hmm.
So he said, "Please don't watch that show." That's what he put on his Instagram to all of
Mm.
his followers. Don't watch it. Don't stream it on Netflix. Don't encourage Viacom to keep taking advantage of him. Um, which which is interesting in and of itself. But what's even
Hmm.
more interesting is that Netflix came out and said, "Okay, you got it. We're not going to show it." So they removed Dave Chappelle's show from their streaming service. After being very excited about it, I saw a lot of marketing saying, "Oh, it's coming. You'll be able to
Hmm.
watch it. You'll be able to stream it." And then they said, "Okay, we're with Dave on this. We're going to remove it." That's the weirdest thing I think about this whole thing,
And they did
especially
it so.
because go ahead.
I was just say, and especially how quick and easy they did it. It wasn't there's no pushback. It
Yeah,
was.
right. Yeah, the turnaround because it became available November 1st, and here we are, and it's already gone. It's been gone for a few days.
Hmm.
Just a couple of weeks, they decided, okay, yeah, we're with you. We'll remove it. And what's weird is it wasn't just on Netflix, right? Like at the same time it became available on Netflix, it was also available on HBO Max, and it's also available on CBS All Access. So if you really wanted to stream it, you could go to one of those platforms. So Netflix is, you know, in that way, they're kind of damaging their own service because they're removing something that's available elsewhere. Um,
Hmm. So other people can go to the
yeah,
other platforms to get that now, and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and part of the reason for this that the article mentions, and that I'm pretty sure is true, is that Dave Chappelle's last four comedy specials have all been on Netflix.
They have. At least the last one was on Netflix. And while JD has a coughing fit.
Yeah, I'm dying over here. And yeah, and so it's a safe bet that his future content is going to be on Netflix. and I'm pretty sure they just don't want to hurt that relationship.
I'm
Like,
fairly his specials are exclusives on Netflix too, right? Like they're not
yeah,
aired
they're
anywhere
exclusive.
else. So
Yeah.
maybe that's why
So
they're like, you know what, we don't want to lose that because his specials do really well on Netflix. I think they get
yeah,
some of the highest ratings for the comedy specials they have, from what I understand. I mean,
and
I
it
haven't
makes
looked.
sense. It
Yeah,
makes sense from a perspective of get rid of old content to in order to preserve
what?
future brand
Yeah,
new content, right? That content is better content. Uh, even if Chappelle's show is a great show. So it does definitely makes sense for that perspective. But it's just crazy to think that they removed it at his request. And the other thing that's crazy, obviously, is that Chappelle doesn't get paid for the Chappelle show. Like
no,
that's ridiculous.
it's his name and everything.
Yeah. That's
Uh,
it's nuts. He doesn't get any royalties for that.
I don't know that the article that I'm looking on IGN. They didn't say where they got this quote from, but they said this is his exact words. I think that if you're effing streaming that show, you're fencing stolen goods. So I'm not going to the agents. I'm coming to my real boss. I'm coming to you. I'm begging you. If you ever liked me, if you ever think there was anything worthwhile about me, I'm begging you. Please do not watch that show. I'm not asking you to boycott any network. Boycott me. Boycott the Chappelle show. Do not watch this unless they pay me. Again, this is the first time I've seen somebody actually boycott themselves. But I mean, I can
Yeah.
understand it at the same time. Maybe he was young, and when he was younger, he just knew he had a good deal doing the Chappelle show, so he just hastily signed a contract, and then later realized, oops, that was a mistake. And he doesn't like the fact that they're still taking advantage of that mistake to this day. But
Yeah.
I
That's
can't blame
exactly
him.
what it is. Yeah.
I
He
can't blame
signed a
him.
bad contract, probably because it was the first real major contract he'd ever had,
Mm,
or at least close to it, and he had no idea what he was signing, and later found out just how much it screwed him. And the company was like, "Well, you signed it, so we're going to take advantage of it," and they haven't let it go
military,
since.
military.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah. I think we've been there. I think we understand what Dave is going through.
but
So yeah, that's pretty nuts.
but I can't tell you guys to boycott me in the military. It doesn't work that way. They just laugh at me.
Yeah, they would indeed. Yeah. So that's pretty crazy information, just in general, that whole situation.
I'm happy
And
for
then,
him though. Sorry, go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
I was saying I'm happy for him that Netflix is willing to take this move. I think it's a smart move, especially if they want to continue having exclusive specials from him. And they have been doing really well, despite I think the last one caused some kind of controversy. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. He went after everybody. So I like comedy like that. I don't think you should hold back. But he caused controversy with it. But Netflix realizes that, like JD says, the Chappelle show's good, but his new stuff is better, and it's pulling in a
Yeah.
lot of people. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. I think it's really smart on Netflix, and it's going to pay off for them probably
mm.
in the end. Um, even though they obviously seemed pretty excited about it originally, but
I mean, who
I
wouldn't
think they're
be? It's the Chappelle
right.
show, so
Right. Yeah. I know. And the worst part is it kind of makes me want to go stream it.
it's like the don't push the red button. I want to push
Yeah,
the red button now.
I gotta push the button. Yeah. I don't know, maybe I'll look up a scene on YouTube or something just to quench my thirst for some Chappelle show. Yeah. So anyway. All right, those are our 3 topics. Very interesting stuff to talk
Mhm.
about today. Do you have anything for the outro?
I didn't, but then while you were talking about the Xbox thing, it made me think of this because I heard recently rumors, and I want to know your thoughts on it real quick. We don't have to go into detail about it. We can probably move it to another episode, but I'm just curious what you heard and if you believe it's true or not. But I heard rumblings because I'm kind of worried as a friend about your mental health state on this, that Dune has been pushed back to October 2021.
Yeah. Didn't we talk about that?
I don't remember talking about that. I think the last
Yeah.
we talked about said it was coming out in December.
No, we talked about how it was delayed because it was
Did we?
originally supposed to come out like around Christmas, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we talked about this on a previous episode that it was delayed to
Maybe
October.
maybe in face our little message thing, but I don't remember talking about it on the episode.
I think we did.
And the reason
I
why
don't know.
I'm
It sucks. it definitely sucks.
Yes,
Because I remember when we first talked about it, we talked about how that it could be really big for the Dune movie to be coming out in December because it could be like when
the first
people
bug.
finally
Yeah.
start going back. But honestly, it looks like December is not going to be when people start going back
No.
because things have gotten worse since we talked about that. So we'll have to see. It does suck that it was delayed, though. Yeah, for sure.
I'm still seeing Google is showing that it's December 18th, 2020, but there's a bunch of articles below it. Half are saying 2020, half are saying October 2021. So I guess nobody's come out to officially say 2021. They keep saying rumors
No, it
or
does. Warner
it
Brothers and
does.
Legendary Pictures have delayed the release of Dune.
Okay.
Yeah,
Which
yeah, that's
I'm
from
actually pretty
Variety.
bummed about. I gave JD a hard time. I'm bummed about it. I was actually looking forward to this movie myself.
Yeah,
So
I was really looking forward to this movie. Especially after the trailer came out, I was really excited about it. So yeah, it's definitely disappointing that it got delayed. Um,
and it's not
but
even
maybe
a
that gives
couple.
them time to polish it. I don't know.
I guess. I mean, and what's worse about this isn't like 3 or 4 months down the road. This is almost a whole year away now.
I know that is a crazy long delay, but
And it's not a
I think that's
production issue.
because I think that's a movie release issue. Like
Mm,
they don't want to release it at the beginning of the year because nobody goes to watch movies at the beginning of the year, even when things are normal. They
yeah.
don't want to release it in the summer because then it has to compete with the summer blockbusters like Avengers and stuff like that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And so I think they're looking at more holiday release to capitalize on it being alone in the
And they're
box office.
probably really hoping for counting on the vaccine to be out by then. And I think they really want people to enjoy this because it sounds like it's going to look incredible in IMAX. And I think that they want people to have a really good movie going experience with this and
Yeah,
really enjoy the work they put into like the sandworm and everything else, all the detail they put into stuff like that. And like we
yeah,
said in a previous episode, I mean, the movie's still probably going to look amazing at home, but it's not going to compare to seeing it in like an IMAX theater. So,
right. Yeah, definitely. Like based on um Villanova's previous works like Blade Runner 2049,
mhm.
like this is going to be a cinematic
Yeah,
experience. Like it's going to be one that you want a big screen. Maybe you want
surround
3D, maybe
sound.
you want that IMAX thing. Yeah,
Mhm.
you want that big surround sound uh volume around you, like all of that stuff. Yeah. It's definitely going to be worth it.
But yeah, I
But
didn't
yeah,
want to
that
get too
sucks.
much into that. It sucks. I'm bummed about it. I know I gave him a hard time, but I'm pretty bummed about it myself. I was looking forward to it. So, just another thing 2020 took from me.
Yep, 2020 sucks. Time to move on. Bring on 2021. Let's make things worse. Wait.
Woohoo! But
Yeah.
that's all I got for my outro. So, that,
Okay. If you guys want to get in touch with us, you want to talk to us on Twitter, we keep our handles in every description, every episode description. If you want to see the links for the stories we talked about today, read more about copyright issues and stuff like that, we will have that in our Discord, which there is a link in the description for that. And you can always use hashtag NTWP. We check that every week to see who's talking to us and things like that. And that's pretty much it. Appreciate you guys listening and tune in next week or whenever for episode 36.
yes, and everybody have a safe and happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. Be smart. Don't do anything stupid, considering what's going on in
Even
this
though you
world.
won't hear
Right?
this until after Thanksgiving, but
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, I got one viewer that I could be talking to.
hooray! All right.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.